Hey guys, my name is Clint Heffern and this is my EDL 850 Module 1 introduction video. So a little bit about myself, some demographic information. I'm originally from Iola, Kansas. I was born and raised there, went to high school there, and actually after I graduated from high school, that's where I went to college to start. I went to Allen Community College for 2 years, which is a JUCO that is actually in Iola. So went there for 2 years, played baseball and basketball. Still wanted to play sports, and Allen gave me that opportunity. So stayed at home, lived with my parents, saved a little bit of money, and still got to play some sports. So it's pretty good. The upper right picture is my parents, and then the middle picture here, that's my niece Mackenzie. She's a little over about 2.5, and then she's got a younger sister who's just a month, just over a month. So that's been really exciting for our family. Kind of learning as we go. I'm first time I'm an uncle, and my parents are grandparents now, so been really exciting about that, and just kind of figuring that out as we go. So like I said, went to Allen Community College after high school, and then went to Pittsburgh State for 3 years. Got my undergrad degree there, and then have been in Pittsburgh ever since. But now I'm pursuing my master's in educational leadership from Fort Hays. But like I said, been in Pittsburgh ever since I came to Pitt State for college. So after I graduated from Pitt State, I spent the past 3 years teaching and coaching in Pittsburgh at St. Mary's Colgan, which is a parochial school. It's not a public school. So that's been really interesting, especially with these grad school classes and kind of looking into public schools a lot. I've had good insight working at a parochial school and not a public school. So I've learned a lot through that. But St. Mary's Colgan's a great place. It's in southeast Kansas. It's actually a member of the Diocese of Wichita, even though we are still in southeast Kansas. But we're a member of the Diocese of Wichita. Taught 3 years there. Taught social studies and 1 PE class. And then this past year, I was actually the junior high athletic director. So that was a good experience. Kind of opened my eyes to some of the administrative duties and roles that are required. So that's a good experience. Like I said, I've coached football, basketball, baseball, and so I've actually just recently taken a new job for the following school year. I will be the head basketball coach, the head high school boys basketball coach at Fort Scott High School. So I'll be teaching social studies and PE there as well. And then, like I said, I'll be the head basketball coach, which Fort Scott is a member of the SEK league, and that's the same league that I played in when I was in high school at Iola. So I'm really looking forward to that. Moving on to kind of levels of government and their control and their effects on public education. So first off, what kind of support do the different levels give and offer public schools? So at the local level, they have more control over what is happening in public schools, especially in the specific town or city, but they decide exactly how schools are going to operate if they're given the power from the state, which is almost always the case. So they do this through school boards, and so school boards have a lot of power and they give a lot of support for the public schools. The school boards are elected by people or can be appointed by a mayor or a city council. But those school boards offer a lot of support for the public schools, which we'll kind of get into next slide. One big thing they do is at the local level through school boards, they pay for almost half of the budget. It's typically less than around half of a school's operating costs for a year. And so they do this through property taxes on homes and businesses. But that's one of the biggest things at the local level they pay for and provide almost half of a school's operating costs. Now at the state level, they assume primary accountability, but usually they delegate this authority to the school districts, so to the local levels of government. State constitutions give them the power to pass laws for the state, pass laws that will require all schools in the state to follow. But a lot of times the state delegate their power, give the power that they have to the local school boards and school units. So states also implement standards. They help gather information with the federal level to help show, which schools need help, which schools need improvement, which schools are doing well, so that then we can allocate funds and focus on certain areas, etc. But that last bullet point for state typically provide around less than half of a school's operating costs for a year, and they do this through incomes and sales tax. So local and state levels offer a lot of financial support for public schools. 40 to 50%, just depends, but like I said, typically around less than half of a school's operating costs. Now, federal, not as much support. So these two statistics right here I found in the information. The second one, about 92% of funds for elementary and secondary schools come from non-federal sources. So that equates to the third bullet point: Congress helps fund about 10% of government-run schools' operating costs. So at the federal level, typically they're helping fund about 10-ish percent of a school's operating costs, which isn't much. It doesn't seem like much, but it still is a decent amount of money, a lot of money that schools want and schools need. So at the federal level, they are, trying to promote student achievement and preparation for global competitiveness by fostering educational excellence and ensuring equal access. So they do this through standardized testing and assessments, such as No Child Left Behind. And then if states and schools within those states follow the guidance of that standardized testing, like in No Child Left Behind, and follow those requirements, then they will receive, those schools will receive funding. So like I said, not as much funding or financial assistance from the federal level, but they do still help. They do still have their hand in this. They have the most power if they want, but typically they delegate their power to the state levels, and the state levels and the local levels have more of a say and offer more support for public schools. So who is in charge? The local units of government, local levels of government. This is like the school board, or sometimes it's called the Board of Education, but they're basically in charge and they do a lot for the school. Those members, like I said earlier, are usually elected by the people or appointed by a city council or mayor, and they basically approve all of school's activities. So whether it's the hiring and firing of new teachers, principals, superintendents, that has to be ran through the school board or the Board of Education. And so, maybe there's an addition, they're adding buildings or implementing new programs, or, basically all decisions for the school district need to be approved and ran through the school board. So they do a lot. They have a lot of power. And like this point I put, superintendent who is in charge, play a big role in the school board, Board of Education, play a big role in deciding, budgeting, financials, and then they delegate their power to building principals. Building principals delegate their power to their teachers and their other helpers, office staff, etc. But school board, Board of Education, superintendent, they do a lot. They are the local units of government, the people in charge. At the state level, we have first off a Kansas state governor, who is Laura Kelly. We also have, just like very similar from the state level to the federal level. So we have a Kansas State Board of Education, which is a lot like United States Department of Education at the federal level. But that Kansas State Board of Education basically is just experts on their area, help the governor and help Kansas Commissioner of Education, Randy Watson, make big decisions for the state. And so the state, they have certain standards, certain assessments. They help implement programs across the state, gather data, like I said earlier. But those are who are in charge at the state level. At the federal level, like I said, we have a United States Department of Education. So just like at the federal level, there's United States Department of Defense, Department of Agriculture. There's all kinds of different departments, and those people that are members of those departments are supposed to be experts in their field, help the president, help Congress, help other people with issues and decisions on that specific field. So yeah, there's United States Department of Education. Secretary of Education at the national level, federal level, is Betsy DeVos. They do help fund some, like I said, but they really delegate their power to the state and encourage educating the youth to advocate for global competitiveness. So that's kind of who is in charge at the federal level. But we do have people at all three levels specifically focusing on education. So standards, standard component 6.1, evaluate, develop, and implement management, communication, technology, school level governance, and operations systems that support each student's learning needs and promote the mission and vision of the school. I felt like this was more of a local level applied to the local level as opposed to the federal level. Maybe local and state, but evaluating, implementing, managing, implementing technology, implementing school level governance. This sounds like what the school board does. This sounds like what superintendents do. This sounds like what principals do. Whether that principal is evaluating what technology works best for their specific classroom or their specific school. I think this is more of a local kind of level. Component 6.2, evaluate, develop, and advocate for a data-informed, equitable resourcing plan that supports school improvement and student development. This sounds to me like state level, whether they're gathering information and data on assessments, standardized testing, that type of thing, to see what schools are doing good and well, and where we need some improvement. 6.2 kind of feels more like a state level, dealing with the state level to me. Component 6.3, reflectively evaluate, communicate about, and implement laws, rights, policies, and regulations to promote student learning and adult success and well-being. This feels like federal level to me. It relates to federal level of government to me. So especially the implementing laws and rights and policies and regulations. If the federal government does want to implement certain laws or pass certain requirements, and be sure that all states are following them, that can happen. So this felt like a federal level issue to me, especially as it says at the end here, promote student and adult success and well-being. So that's the goal of education, is to provide a population and a people that are educated so that they can become overall contributors to society in a positive way. So that is the goal of education at all levels, but especially at the federal level. Last question here. How does all of this support the educational success and well-being of each student and adult? This is really cool to me. I teach government, and every year, big topic is federalism. And that's definitely something that was new to me, but I've learned a lot about it. Federalism is basically powers divided at different units of government. So federal level, state level, and local units of government. And so all of those levels work together at the same time on the same people sometimes. And they all are different levels, different operating systems, but they all are working at the same time on the same people. So it's cool that they have different roles, but at the same time all working with education. So there's goods to that. For one, there's some known leadership. And so from the very top, if we're talking national level, we can set some plans and standards that we want all states to abide by, because we want a educated society. So like No Child Left Behind. And then states can follow it if they want some funding, that type of a thing. But there's known leadership from the top, and there can be decisions made at the top. But a lot of times that top delegates their power to the state. State delegates their power to the local units of government. But like I said, at the federal level, we want to have an educated society and compete globally. So that is emphasized from the top down. And then at the bottom, federalism is so cool because it allows the uniqueness of each, whether that's region or state or local region, to still flourish. It's not trying to handcuff and make urban cities do things exactly how rural places do things, or rural places do things exactly how urban places do things. So it's really cool that we can still have a federal government operating on a group of people, while at the same time have a local unit of government operating on those same people and doing things different from local region to different places within a state. So it's a unique issue. It's very complicated. It can definitely be very complicated. But at the same time, all of these units are working together to get the most out of our students, because we want to positively contribute to the nation as a whole. So yeah, like I said, complicated, yes, but very cool, very allows us to still be unique. So here are my sources. Thank you guys for listening.